You are now watching The Meech.
It's been nearly a decade since we got a new 2D Mario game. Hard to believe, isn't it? It should be because Super Mario Maker 2 only released about 3 years ago. The Super Mario Maker games aren't the same as standard 2D Mario adventures, but for many, they satisfy the need for a new 2D Mario game, including myself to an extent. Super Mario Maker 2 includes a story mode, and because there are a lot of new tools and features, the possibilities for levels are nearly endless. However, Super Mario Maker simply cannot replace a new 2D Mario game. This is because a new 2D Mario game can often have features not found in the Maker games, but also because a standard 2D Mario game is a streamlined experience. Super Mario Maker 2 has excellent and creative levels made by players, but a level like this has a completely different tone compared to the ones found in 2D Mario games. Since the Nintendo Switch is the greatest game machine on the planet, being the best console of all time, I'm sure it has the definitive new 2D Mario game. Let's check it out! Never mind. You may think this is where all hope ends, but for those wanting a new 2D Mario game, there is a solution. And as hard as it is to believe, Sega does what Nintendo don't. This is Mario 3 Vokrov Svieta, or Mario 3 Around the World. It was made by a Russian game developer known as VMV. Since it's of European origin, it's a Mega Drive game. Here's what's hard to believe. This isn't a passion project or a fan game. This game has packaging and is designed to be sold, probably at Toys R Us. It's understandable why bootleg Mario Sega Mega Drive games would exist. You could only play Mario games on the Super Nintendo, so it provided an option for those to play Mario games without getting another system. But most bootleg Mario games on the Mega Drive were released throughout the 90s. This game was made as recently as 2011. I can understand selling bootleg clones of consoles with a bunch of built-in games for those wanting a more affordable console, but what I can't understand is why standalone Sega Mega Drive games would be sold in 2011. What's the market for this? The only one I can think of are those who have a strange fascination with these bizarre bootlegs, like myself. But if you know of a practical reason why this game was made, please let me know. The packaging uses artwork from Super Mario Galaxy 2. If you're expecting Galaxy 2 on the Mega Drive, that's not what this is. Though honestly, it's more plausible than Nintendo putting it on the Switch. The cartridge feels very cheap, and it feels like it could break at any moment. For those interested in getting the game, I will warn you flat out, it will not work on a standard NTSC Sega Genesis. It fits in the Genesis 3, but it crashes. But thankfully, it runs on the Retron 3 without any issue. The question is, would I say da or niet while recommending this game? The story begins with a cloud hovering over Peach's castle. I would be able to read it and translate it, but this is Russian, not Greek. Saklamades. Thankfully, a fan named Wario Land Gold Pyramid reached out to me and helped translate it. It turns out the cloud was invented by Wario, and he takes Peach. But instead of a castle, he takes her to a famous real-world location. Mario then has to travel around the world to rescue her. The fact that this bootleg game manages to have Wario as a villain speaks volumes about Nintendo forcing every mainline Mario game to have only Bowser be the villain. It's nice having an interesting story, but the most important aspects in 2D Mario games are the level design and the gameplay. At face value, the game looks like a typical 2D Mario game, but the worst mistake you can make going into this game is expecting it will play like a Mario game. The basic controls are what you'd expect. The Genesis has a 3-button controller, so it's A to run, B to jump, and C to throw fireballs, but the physics in this game are completely messed up. When you jump while running, you'd expect a further jump, but that's not how it works here. If you run then jump, the distance is short, and even if you make it to another platform, you'll likely slide off and fall. It's best just to walk and then jump, because the distance is about the same, and you have far greater control. You'd also expect holding the B button to make Mario jump higher, but it actually does the opposite. You'll have to learn that walking and jumping is primarily the best option, but for tighter platforming, that's when you'd hold on to B. The physics are not what you'd expect, but once you get used to them, they're still terrible. I don't understand why a 16-bit game from 2011 has such terrible physics. Super Mario Bros. Came out in 1985, and I don't understand why they couldn't just replicate the physics here. Don't expect to dash through levels and clear them. You'll have to take your time, and calculate every jump accurately, so the game is much slower paced than any other 2D Mario game. Yeah, so much for that blast processing. After you get an understanding of the controls, the game plays like a standard Mario game. Most enemies behave like you would expect them to here, with Goombas being able to be squished, and you can kick Koopa shells to defeat enemies, but the Piranha Plants here are these really weird Pac-Man hybrids that move around the platforms, but they function just like the Goombrats. But great, now I have to do the rise and fall of Piranha Plants. Oddly enough, the flurries from Mario 2 appear in the game, but you can jump on them to defeat them. Even though Wario is technically the villain, there are no bosses in the game, which is unfortunate, but I can't exactly say the expectations were high. I was impressed that Koopa shells could ricochet, so that should tell you something. The power-ups here are the standard Mario power-ups. The Super Mushroom lets you break bricks and gives you an extra hit, but there's no indicator that Mario is super. Even if he didn't change in size, something like a health bar or even shining overalls like in Hotel Mario would have been something. There's also no indicator for the Fire Flower. Mario's look will remain the same throughout the entire game. There are 3 worlds in the game, all based on real-world locations such as Egypt and the Aztec. The level design, however, varies in quality. Some levels are good, and other levels are downright bad. This game goes completely overboard with hidden blocks. It's common to almost finish a level, only to die from hitting a hidden block. The game is actually pretty difficult, but it's mainly due to the poor physics and cheap deaths. Even the best Mario players are pretty much guaranteed to get at least a few game overs.
Time to die!
I'm sorry, but what on earth is this? These modern Mega Drive bootlegs all have absolutely horrifying game over screens, but it turns out this specific image is an edited version of a tomato Photoshop contest picture. I always thought Donkey Kong Country was the winner of having the most unsettling game over screen, but this game takes a cake. You have 5 continues, but after that, it's game over. The game itself is actually more reminiscent of Super Mario Land. That game also had Mario visiting locations based on the real world, and the physics were bizarre there, but nowhere near as bad as the ones here. Super Mario Land might not have aged that well, but if anything, it has a stellar soundtrack that's still held up well today. Mario 3 Around the World takes a lot of inspiration from that game, and let's hope it applies to the presentation as well. From a graphical standpoint, the game looks quite good. The locations resemble the ones are based on quite well. The Egypt world has levels built outside and in a pyramid, and the Aztec levels range from taking place in the day and even at sundown. The sprites for the enemies and items are mostly from Super Mario All-Stars. Some are modified though, such as the Koopas having yellow shells, and the Frankenstein Piranha Man enemies. You may initially think the sprite for Mario is original, but it's actually from a semi-obscure Super Famicom game, Mario and Wario. Even if you played the game, Mario will have a bucket on his head most of the time. These bootleggers actually had the audacity to use a Mario sprite that is rarely seen. Now that is a Pro Thief move, but a move that goes beyond Pro Thief is with the soundtrack. I have played many bootleg games. A few are actually decent, but almost all of them have a poor soundtrack. Just take a listen to the NES Super Mario World theme. Sounds like either a deteriorating ice cream truck or any ice cream truck in Pasco County. Despite the horrifying game over screen and bad physics, the soundtrack here is unbelievably good. The music is randomized, meaning that a level won't have a set theme. Only 2 of the songs are renditions of Mario music. One is great, the other is mediocre, but most of the soundtrack consists of techno music. When you hear it, you won't even think it's from a bootleg game. All these songs are stolen, with the speed being increased, but I never heard of any of these songs before I played this game, and if it's a bootleg, does it really matter if the soundtrack isn't original when the entire game is a ripoff? Mario 3 Around the World has many problems, but the presentation is anything but. So So far we've established that Mario 3 Around the World is an absolute anomaly of a game. It looks like it would play like a standard Mario game, but is hindered by bad controls and cheap level design. But the presentation is great, and the soundtrack is ridiculously good. So what's the verdict? Mario 3 Around the World is not a good game. When the act of platforming isn't entirely plausible in a platformer, that means something is very, very wrong. Would I recommend getting the game? Probably not. But would I recommend playing it? Yes. It's a complete novelty through and through. Not only is it a Sega Genesis Mario game, but it's a fairly modern game. It's a Russian bootleg too, which is very uncommon. The bizarre moments in the game are part of the fun. Mario 3 Around the World gets the ranking of a Stingray 5000 single. It's still trash, but you'll definitely find amusement from it. But the thing is, the game could have been at least decent if it had good physics. I wanted to see what the game would be like if the physics were good, so I've been working on a full-on remake in Super Mario Maker 2. The full remake will be a Super World and be in the new Super Mario Bros. U style, but I've decided to remake a few levels in the Super Mario Bros. Style because the game is most similar to it. Here are some of the levels I made, so feel free to check them out. So what do you guys think? Have you heard about Mario 3 Around the World before? And if not, what do you think? Anyways, thanks for watching, and sokranes pokos fi idada na.